some of us have talked, Andy, myself, Mike, we've developed friendships too that have helped us in developing the crowdsourcing we've got. So it's beyond that. I mean, we don't just talk inside this app anymore. So I think the whole point.
Well, let me talk about Rob left the room, but Rob is one of the other people that I followed, and I went to every room he was in because he was a source of great information. Again, I think you seek out what you want. I wanted information. I wanted to learn about COVID. We just got a little bit involved in it. When the President of the United States, Biden, says if you take the shot, you won't get the disease and you won't spread it and you won't give it to grandma. That was a lie, or that was inaccurate. I could talk about it on Facebook. I could talk about it on Twitter. But I could talk about guys like Rob and Mike and the 50 other guys I can mention off the top of my tongue. And that was the invaluableness of this app at the time. And today, if you want to have a topic, you want to control it like JP does, the app is perfect. The rooms are great. JP's never asked me for a penny. I love his rooms.
Thank you. I didn't know you were doing 30 million a year, so I might have not kidded Eddie. But God bless and good for you. But I just got to give some flowers because, people say, oh, you're such a good man and blah, blah, blah. Man, listen, none of this is possible without Mojo. Mojo definitely empowered me. He's my friend in real life. And we can't cultivate some good relationships. I always say, pick your tribe, don't let your tribe pick you. And don't fall for the few words that people say to get you in their circle. But man, let me tell you something. What you people don't know, because everybody internalizes everything that's said on this app. Mojo's the real deal. Not just on this app, but in real life. This is my friend. And we disagree on so many. Don't even get me started on gun rights. Because that'll just blow people up. But let me say good morning to David. Good morning, David.
Morning. I was listening earlier, and two things. I'm really glad Normal and maybe Andy mentioned, some of the things that were great. And I think we need to go back to that. But really, when I was in the audience, you hit on it. It's moderation. We still go in rooms that are well moderated, and we have enjoyable times, and that's what it comes down to. I think too many people here are allowed to troll. Not that they're bad people, but to troll for their own sport. I mean, that's how they get their jollies, and that can get tiresome really quick. But it occurred to me after the last two speakers were talking, we should also do a room with, what was great about Clubhouse, because it brought back a lot of memories. I mentioned your October 7th room, what I've learned here. I came here just because I bought a car and I found a community and people I've made friends with and have meaningful relationships with on a daily basis. I would never have found that without Clubhouse.
I agree, Dave. Hey. Okay, Mike. We'll go Mike and then Shay.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to talk about the great things because it was. But I'm going to talk about the tough thing. It wasn't just trolls. We always had trolls too. We had people. We would set up, basically infrastructure to manage that. But we had people that were most likely paid. And that probably came from USAID to come in and detract, disengage, to knock us off our goal and destabilize the room and eventually try to burn it to the ground. There were some serious actors that were involved, and some were exposed. UN, some groups, and they were typically doctors. They took a lot of interns in the first year.
Well, Mike, don't you
turn them loose up, yeah.
Mike, don't mute up. Let me just say this stuff here. By like Aaron Berger, Aram, these people are still here. They're paid to come in and disrupt the news. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, and I also believe there were agencies involved. I'll just leave it at that, as well as because they did not want, as much as I gratefully appreciate was sporty. That's for sure.
Thank you. So I changed the title to the room by popular demand, and it seems the question is, what made or makes Clubhouse great? The answer is you. So let me say hello to Dr. Jordan. Dr. Jordan is one of those people, like, when I first met him, I'm like, this guy's an asshole. But as I got to know him over the years, man, I got nothing but love, respect, and admiration for Jordan. And you know why? Because Jordan is always Jordan. He doesn't try to be somebody else. Good morning, Dr. Jordan.
Good morning. Thank you. That's touching. Yeah, I think I love Clubhouse. I mean, it has its faults. I'm more concerned about what happened to Facebook, but Clubhouse is fantastic. It's a great place to convene. You know, I think all of us grow as people on here because we get so much feedback about each other. I mean, where else do you get feedback? Blatant criticism. So I think it's a great app.
Thank you, Jordan. David,
Dr. Jordan. I haven't seen him in a couple of years. Holy cow, brother.
Good. How are you?
Jordan's definitely an OG on the set. But David, you wanted to jump in?
Just real quick, I think even when some of the rooms got tedious and, we had like 3 months of what I call 3 months of Kanye here. And I never imagined, I guess I don't know, I'll go back to words, but how much but hurt people carry and don't let go of, and also hold on to things that may or may not be true. And after a few hours and after the largest voices went away, the people who stayed could really talk and learn from each other, and those were valuable nights.
I think there's still a large voice. I'm sorry, Shay, I skipped over you. My apologies. I'm going to come to you in a second. One of the things I don't understand is I'm literally down the center when it comes to politics. I believe I am. Other people disagree with that assessment. But how people get so personal over somebody's political party. Like, I don't give a fuck if you're Republican. I can care less if you're a Democrat. But we pick our politicians like we pick our sports teams. Here's Jay.
Hey, JB, you just said something that reminded me of something I used to say over in the preservation. All of our differences won't make a difference when the people who are coming against all of our different differences have us lined up with different numbers on the same colored jumpsuit. So at the end of the day, we have to put those differences aside in order to make a difference in the world that we like to call home. Which leads me to this. What made Clubhouse great was the communities that we were able to build up. Sitting in the community with Mike and Rob and some of the other folks who aren't here right now over in the preservation, out in real life, doing my real life thing with my real life family. On the occasion, people would hear my voice and they would approach me. They're like, I know you. And I'm looking at them like, no, you don't. I'm like, I follow you on Instagram, but I heard you on Clubhouse. You won't believe the things that you said that helped me and my family do ... Whether it was helping them make the informed decision for themselves, whether to take the jab or not take the jab. If they chose not to take the jab, we're helping them get the paperwork necessary that they needed to secure their employment. Whether it was popping in to one of the survival sustainable rooms, understanding what a bug out bag is, what you should put in, what you shouldn't put into it, or more so specifically narrow down to my niche. Homesteading and gardening. Shay, you helped me get my garden started. Blah, blah, blah. So we've all made, can't say we all, but I would hope to say a good chunk of us have made a impactful difference in society by way of having the opportunity to hold a green bean or, have an opportunity to have the mic and say what we need to say. Some of us have really actually touched lives to some of the people out here in the goo. And to me, that's what made Clubhouse great. I helped somebody else improve their life by way of Clubhouse.
Oh, I love that shit. Because I say it all the time. I hate the word influencer. We're all influencers. You can say something that can resonate with somebody in the chat that you have no idea you resonated with them. You can change people's lives. I know I have. I know other people should have. Kristen.
Yeah. So I just remembered. Do y'all remember
those humans that were trying to get so many followers that did MLMs and were like, this just reminded me of like, we want to help you. I'm not talking about you, Shane. I'm talking about people who are no longer on here. We're trying to get like over 20,000. Yeah, we get 20,000 followers because they did some stupid MLM thing. They had some money in it. Good God. Not that it killed Clubhouse, but it was like that was ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that definitely did kill Clubhouse. Follow me, follow your moderators, da 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 da. No, one thing that I said when I was, top left, don't follow me. Follow everybody else in the space. Follow the people that you want to resonate with, because if you follow me, you're probably gonna change your life. So yeah, hearing constantly every other, speaker, follow your moderator. Make sure you follow the room. Yeah.
Respectfully, saying "don't follow me" is a backdoor way of asking people to follow you.
I really didn't want people following me because I went into spaces that people probably be like, what the f is she doing in here? Like, I really didn't want people
Spaces where you going into? Were you like hanging out in the BDS rooms? What were you doing that you didn't want people following you?
I can't tell you that. Look, Roger, what happens at Clubhouse after dark stays on Clubhouse after.
I'm just saying I want the invite. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'm going to get back, Mojo. Before I go to First Lady, Mojo, CEO, wanted to have a dialogue with you. CEO, are you there?
I am, yeah. So,
You want to have that dialogue?
yeah, so Roger, in response to you saying America's the least racist country, I agree with you, but I think it's also the most racist country. So it's racist.
That doesn't sound like
I'll tell you why. It's the most racist, it's the most tolerant. Here's why. There's no other country on the earth that can have the amount of diversity America does without completely imploding. So that's where I agree with you. It's the most racist for the same reason, in the sense that when 40% of your population is different than the main population, that creates a lot of tension, a lot of challenges, and a lot of problems. So that's why I say it's.
Okay, well, I'm not going to argue that point. I think that there's two very disappointing things that happen when we discuss race on this app, and that was what I had said, because people love to talk about race on this app. And here's the two disappointing things. You have one camp that doesn't want to acknowledge that there was historical injustices, and I think those people are idiots. However, there's a more dangerous group of people, and those are the people that don't want to recognize that there's been progress that's been made, and in fact, that we've gone out of our way to make sure that we rid ourselves of laws that would discriminate against people. And I think the lack of acknowledgement of the progress that we made, like for example, I did a room like that, and we were talking about is the country less racist in 2025 than it was in 1960? And then people would say, no, which is just fucking absurd, right? Then I would ask those same people, okay, well, is it less racist than it was in 1860? And then they would say, no. And so this is the problem. You have people that literally live for stirring up racial tension. And if you can't acknowledge that there's been progress, then you are the problem.
Thank you, Mojo. CEO, did you want to push back on that, or am I moving on?
No, I agree. I agree with that. I think Roger, when people don't acknowledge the progress from 1960 or 1860, then that's just disqualifying them from having a reasonable time.
Thank you, Rob. I got you. Give me a second. I have to say hello to First Lady, because she's my friend, and I like her. What's up, First Lady?
JB, how are you?
I'm great. So for those of you who don't know Lady G, First Lady, she runs a greenhouse, co-politically correct, CEO, always in there. So follow up if you want to have a great conversation. So first lady, what makes Clubhouse great?
Well, I mean, obviously, you and me, right? I'm first lady of Clubhouse. I gave myself that name, not Clubhouse. Anyway, yeah, what makes it great is the ability to meet so many people all across the globe. People can dial in from Kuwait, from the Middle East, from Egypt. I've met so many different people. And, what makes it great for me is being able to connect and, have conversations, spread love, spread light, spread joy. Those are the wonderful things that I enjoy about Clubhouse. And I think that is what makes it great. And in addition to that, what makes it great is continuously building community, no matter where you are. The more I know about someone else, it allows me to find the empathy in conversation. I may not agree with you, but I can find why or understand or try to understand why you feel that way. And then move on, finding different perspectives of different people's thoughts just helps me to live a better, well-rounded, balanced life. So thank you.
Thank you, first lady. There's a few people on the side, quite a few people. I'm still trying to understand the perspective 5 years later. But let me say good morning to Tomato. Tomato, what's up?
Hey, I posted some link. From Rogers. And I think it's not the right room to have an in-depth discussion. And for me, Clubhouse is great because it brings together people from different economic classes that don't interact. America is very, very, very segregated based on your economic class, based on your education level. And Clubhouse is the only venue I know of where people can break those bonds and communicate personally.
Thank you, Tomato. Guys, we're going to go pop on style. Grab the mic. All I ask you is to respect the one mic policy. So we're going to go pop on style.
I know First Lady still owes me dinner, so I'm gonna hold her to that until she pays up. I'm not gonna call her the First Lady of Clubhouse. She just hasn't followed through.
These are lies, Brad.
Wait, hold on. You're not paying your debt, first lady? I'm shocked.
I'm shocked as well. I went and I drove all the way to where Brad is and told him to meet me at the restaurant, and he never showed up. So now he's saying that.
Wait a second, hold on.
Yes, he stood me up. He stood me up.
You ghosted first lady, Brad?
Yep.
Well, to be fair, I received a call from the President of the United States, and he needed me in the Situation Room. And so I had to just quickly cancel you. You can't turn down the President of the United States.
I'm turning it down for G, I can tell you that.
I have a question for Chi. Is your room, remind me, is that where they have this silly woman by the name of Sin as a moderator on there? Is that the room?
I don't know if I consider it as being silly, but there is someone there by the name of Sin. That's correct.
Okay, so I was in that room one day, and no disrespect to you, but maybe it was just a bad day, but it was like, when we talk about what's killing Clubhouse, that was one of the experiences. This woman was talking about, government programs, this government programs, that, and then I simply talked about private charity or whatever, blah, 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 and then she gets into this on her high horse about how she does all this work, and then I go, oh, that's interesting, I go, yeah, why don't you, I called her out, I said, why don't you put your private charity that you just spoke about in the chat, and I'll make a donation. And instead of posting it, she actually removed me from the room. I think that was an admission that she actually wasn't doing anything. And so I would say that the people that are in some of these rooms, and I'm not calling you out, but because it happens everywhere, but there are some people that are just completely fucking fraudulent, and they make these claims I'm out there doing work, I'm building community, and it's really? Well, why don't you post this fucking work that you're doing and I will support it? I'm a very generous person. If she would have posted it, I legit would have given her $500 to whatever charity it was. I wouldn't have even cared if I disagreed with it because I would have been impressed that somebody's actually telling the truth that they're doing something in their community. I think most of the people on this app are full of shit when they talk about that, and she's a prime example of somebody that's a complete fucking.
My recollection of that day isn't quite the same, Roger. I do agree that you got thrown out of a room in a rude way, and I disagree with it. I pushed back kind of on stage, but it wasn't for that reason. It was more so that, like, she was giving you a certain level of energy. You were giving some of that energy back, which I thought was fair, but then, yeah, you got thrown out for it. So, I agree you were thrown out incorrectly. But I don't agree with you.
How come she didn't post for charity?
She might have privacy reasons. Some people just don't like being sharing anything that's going to allow you to connect them to who they are off of the app.
It's not a very good
people just like to stay private. Yeah, but you don't want to fundraise on Clubhouse, though. You don't want to fundraise on Clubhouse.
Well, no, but she brought it up. If she wanted the privacy about it, why did she? See, this is.
She didn't name it, though, right? She didn't name the number.
She's like, I'm out there doing work. I'm doing this, and I'm like, yeah, show me. And then, no, can't do that. Listen, I honestly, I think women like that make these fucking asinine claims. I guarantee that bitch is on a couch eating Doritos with crumbs all over her fucking shirt. She ain't fucking put on no fucking work boots in a fucking minute. She was so full of shit. Like, they get on here on Clubhouse and they talk about doing work. They're not doing fucking work. They're running their fucking mouth.
Yeah, that's an error too. Oh, I think she does do work. I'm going to disagree. I'm not going to let that.
Hold on a second, Mike. Let me just say, I'm still on a shotgun driving ghost. First lady. I mean, you know what is wrong with some people? That's what's wrong with Clubhouse.
Mike wants to speak. I'll speak after Mike. Go ahead.
I was in that room too, and I agree that they were giving each other a little bit of shit. But her fear of being called out for the fact that she said she ran a charity, and then her inability to say what it was palpable. Like when he called her out, and I said, "Well, really, what is it?" It was like she was surprised to hear that question, and I think she was totally full of shit. So there's one more.
Okay, so that's the beauty of living in America. That is the beauty of Clubhouse. We all are entitled to our opinions. And just because you have an opinion, or just because you have a feeling about something, doesn't make it factual. It just means that that's your perception of it. And that's what I was speaking about just recently. Who knows why she didn't provide the information? It could have been just because it was a heated conversation leading up to that. She didn't feel trust from you, and then probably thought that you were trying to show her out, and then that's the reason why they removed you. But yeah, such is life. I don't know why he had to call her B-word and say that she eating Doritos on the couch and getting crumbs all in between. But, to each his own.
Yeah, but those are words. Those aren't going to hurt anybody. I mean, like,
That's the thing, Mojo.
No. I come from a generation where we had a saying that sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. And I think the generation that said that words are violence are part of the fucking problem.
First, you gave one option. Firstly, you just gave one option of why she could have been unwilling to say it. That is a possibility. Right? You said opinions, everybody has an opinion, it's true, everybody does. But when somebody makes a claim and they're unwilling to back it up with proof, I can't give them the benefit of the doubt anymore because there's too many liars, especially in Clubhouse. If she's going to use her charity as an example of her altruism, then I'm going to look for a tangible example to believe it exists. And if she's unwilling to do that, I'm not going to default to, she probably has one and she just doesn't want to.
collect funds right now for Roger. I'm not going to default to that. Common sense is going to tell me, oh, I'm not really sure she's telling the truth. And if somebody else can raise their hand and say, oh, no, I can give evidence she has a charity, she just doesn't want to say the name of it, that's fine. But I haven't heard anyone in here say that you know she has a charity and that she just didn't want to name it because she somehow told you she has one. What I hear is a bunch of people giving her excuses for not providing evidence of what she was claiming. And until I find out that there's some testimonial out there that this charity exists, I'm going to default personally, because I use common sense and critical thinking, to the concept that there's a more than likely chance she's full of shit. And there's a small chance that she has a charity that needs money that she was unwilling to say in a public forum amongst a bunch of supporters, that even if Roger didn't want to give her money, somebody else in the room might have. And furthermore, I'm going to assume she would have mentioned this charity some other time by name in a smaller group setting where Roger wasn't personally asking her for proof, that other people could raise their hands and say, oh, she has one.
Mike, hold on a second. Why are we dragging this lady? Hey, she's not here to defend herself.
Because I was there, it was ridiculous, and I like dragging liars. I like dragging liars.
Okay, but we don't know if she's alive. And I'm going to say why. Maybe she didn't want to give the name for self-preservation reasons, because we know that people make the worst out of everything on this app, right?
It's a non-profit. What are you talking about? If she really ran a non-profit, she should be screaming it from the rooftops to get support. Somebody offered to fund it, and she didn't fucking offer it. She was completely full of shit.
In that moment, maybe she wouldn't have given it. In that very moment,
Can I finish, please? Can I finish,
she's been
please?
told somebody else in the past.
Can I finish, please? Can I finish, please? Thank you. Thank you. That's all it is. People weaponize everything on this fucking app. And maybe she was just defending herself. Maybe she doesn't utilize this. I don't know Sid that well. I just know her from the groups that she had. I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna stand up, but she's not here. She wants to come in and stand on a square. That's her business. This is one of the problems. Hold on, Roger. Please let me finish. This is one of the problems with this app. Is that people want to weaponize things, but without context of why she's not doing it. Why does she have to answer to any of us first of all? Look at Roger.
Yeah, if she'll bring her lion ass into this room right now, I'll up to 1,000.
Okay, get another 100.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, you want to kick it too?
No, I've got burned up this app so many times with charities. There was a woman who had breast cancer that was losing her house, and I gave several thousand to that one. Let's see, what was the other one?
Oh no.
Oh yeah, that turned out to be fake.
Don't forget the Africans.
Oh yeah, I mean, I do find it odd. I will say this: I find it odd that somebody would promote a charity, considering the number of fucking charities and foundations that have been asked for, the amount of money that has gone, including a woman who said her son was missing on the app and he was kidnapped or something along those lines, and they were raising funds to help get private detectives. I kicked in for that one. I felt terrible because as a parent, I would burn the world down to find my kids. There would be no one safe in the entire world. Friend, family, it wouldn't matter until I found my kids. So, I couldn't imagine that was going through.
Brad, I kicked into that one too.
Yeah, and I mean, whenever I hear charity now, and I have to hand it off to KK, she made me promise that if I ever give anybody money on this app, I have to match that amount to her equally, because she'll give it to a charity she runs. And I'm kind of like, all right, and I kind of pulled back. We've helped out a lot of people. I bought wheelchairs, paid for an organ transplant. Like, I know a lot of you don't know much about that, but there's a lot of fees and transportation costs. Fucking donated thousands of dollars to that, and that woman was at least she was getting service, and she was so grateful, and she posted everything and her recovery and all that stuff. It was fantastic. Hats off to it. But there's just been a lot of fucking fake charities, fake GoFundMes, like
whatever it is. I'm just kind of weary now. I'm with everybody else. I don't agree with Mike often. I agree with him in this stance. I think it's, it's just our experience on Clubhouse.
May I ask one more question, just and then we can change the subject about this. But for those of you that were in that room, if you could just tell me if I'm lying or even exaggerating about what happened, call me out on that. And if I was telling it 100% how it happened, go ahead and indicate that too. Keep me honest.
Clubhouse great. Marshall Rankin makes this clubhouse great. Marshall's one of the most underappreciated people on this app. And he always acknowledges respect and courtesy. And Marshall, I can't even tell you how much I appreciate you. I had a personal issue in real life, and I reached out to Marshall, and this is on my children. The man didn't hesitate to help me. Had nothing to do with money, by the way. So before you could say I asked for money, had nothing to do with money. But Marshall is the real one, and he's a great human being. How you doing, Marshall?
Before Marshall speaks, I want to jump in on that. Out of all the people on Clubhouse, I think I'm tough. Maybe it's, just, ego or whatever it is you want to. I've gone through a lot in life. I think I'm a tough man. I think, I'm the pagan Viking, as Gerard likes to call me and all this stuff. I'm going to say Marshall is probably tougher than I am because that man has gotten abuse from everybody. Keeps it smiling, keeps it moving, and bullets don't penetrate him, man. He's fucking Superman on this app. He is tough. He does it with aplomb, he does it with grace, he does it with kindness and measures, and even when him and I have gotten back and forth, still love the guy. Can be pissed off at him for a while, but I still love the guy, and I think everybody just ought to, including myself, take a step back and breathe once in a while, because Marshall's never meant to harm a single person on this app, and he loves this app more than anybody else on it.
I agree with that. Marshall, I really appreciate that. Morning, how are y'all doing? You're here, so we're doing something right. Do you want to chime in on what makes Clubhouse great?
I think at its best, it's the ability to have a conversation that expands one's mind or makes somebody more humble. And it's worse, it's a mix between Montel Williams and Jerry. Like, Montel Williams is more intelligent, but at its best, it allows people to have conversations instead of debates. And humans are just more likely to pick up good information in a discussion that's not a contest. If it's a contest, we tend to not get as much out of it. So I think the ability to meet people from all across the world and see their view, right? Like I have some pretty interesting American imperial views, but I've met some people from the UK, I've met a dude from Serbia, and some of the way I think about foreign policy, for example, is a little bit different than where I started. And at its best, it allows you to grow as a person. At its worst, it's a gossip machine on steroids.
Thank you, Marshall. I'm going to introduce the next speaker. I wandered while I stayed in my rooms, but tell me the names. Anything that might be yours.
Hey, Marshall, man. I wanted to, give you your flowers as well. You're definitely, a shining point of light. Amazing dude. Mojo, Roger, as hard as they come in, and got nothing but the utmost respect for that dude. He'll get down in the weeds. He'll go hard, and he'll fight for his point. He will debate anybody. He never runs. He's stand up guy, man. Stand up guy. Just there's so many people. I can't even speak to everyone on the app, but I love people that can stand on their square, express their.
I want to say something to Anthony. I don't think I'm ever said out loud, but there is a lot of people on this app that have opinions that don't fit a popular narrative, whether it's for the room, whether it's for the app, whether it's society at large. Anthony is probably the most consistent person that I've heard on this app. That doesn't mean I agree with everything. He and I have argued about a lot of shit, but I appreciate consistency. That's when you can test conviction, is when somebody is consistent. They don't code switch depending on what rooms they're in. Anthony has a narrative that infuriates people, and it would be very easy if he wanted to make friends to just he could cut the corners off of it and make it a little like easier for people to digest. And he just speaks his mind. And like again, I think he's wrong about some things, but I really do appreciate people like Anthony, and I hope he continues to do that on and off.
Hey, Mojo, I gotta go get pick up my dog. Everybody want to keep it open?
Yeah, let's keep it open. I'm gonna go a little later today. I'm gonna be driving some supercars, so I won't be on here all day today. But yeah, we can keep it going.
All right, catch you guys later.
It what inspired the title today? Was anybody in that room yesterday to beat the news from home? I think it got pretty big.
I'll walk you through the history of it. So a couple of days ago, Lou Fax, who I think is one of the best moderators this app has ever had, ran a room talking about Clubhouse reunion, and some people returned to it, and then grifter ass Jonathan Bing, who's never had an original thought in his fucking entire life, ran a room and Debate the News. And I'm not personally attacking him, other than just this observations of truth and statements of facts are not like a problem. And so Jonathan Bing's just a big no talent that has, that tries to draft off other people's momentum. He did that for years with Jerry Malcolm. Then he did it with Nelson, and then even he'll draft off the momentum of what Lou does. And so he started a room saying, Clubhouse reunion, you people are the ones that ruined it. Well, talking about ruining it, Jonathan Bing single-handedly ruined Chatter. And so there's kind of been a theme that's gone on. Yesterday there was a room, on a similar topic after Bing's, and now we're doing this. I think we're going to talk this thing to death, but I'm in the camp that Clubhouse isn't necessarily dead. It's just irrelevant. It's just past its prime. It's kind of like, when an NFL player retires, they struggle to find relevance. Like one or two of them will get broadcasting gigs, a few more might go into coaching. But for the most part, people just go home and they're no longer an athlete and they just get fat. And I think that Joe has Shark, aren't you? Yeah. Jumping the Shark is a good way to look at it. Although I think I would re-examine the old Jump in the Shark thing. People say that Happy Days went downhill because of Fonzie, on water skis jumping over the shark. But I would submit that when Richie Cunningham left, Ron Howard left the show, that's when the show went to hell. And the Jump in the Shark episode was not the worst Happy Days episode. I don't know if you guys remember, but Mork from Mork, Robin appeared in their town and showed up at Arnold's place. So I would say that was the moment when that show was over. And I also think that a better comparison of when a show is over, rather than the Fonzie Jump in the Shark, would be when Cousin Oliver joined the cast at the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, man. I love your reference. Your references. That's crazy that you remember that. I didn't even know that Mark showed up over the Happy Days. I had no idea. That's interesting. But I'm cool with Clubhouse and its current iteration. Like, I'm cool with the couple of rooms rooms that actually, to do what they did. You don't need huge spaces. Like some of the best conversations I've had in Clubhouse might have been 3 or 4 or 5 people in it. Like, there's some people that they view their importance or the importance of a room by its ability to draw a crowd. And I don't necessarily, agree. I think the biggest thing that benefited Clubhouse early on was the pandemic, obviously. Right place, right time. And, there's people just would stay on this app for days at a time, just nonstop. But, like, there's certain spaces that it's like a virtual chairs. Like, you go there, it's all like virtual family. Like, you pull up your chair, you talk shit about the current events, and then you have some people that just bang in the chat.
So, Anthony, let me engage with you on this because you said something really important, and I want to admit to something. You were talking about big rooms not really being, the high quality, and I can say this, like as I look at this stage, Mike Kitover is ran some biggest rooms that this app has ever had consistently. Peak healthy debates, we used to get 1,000, 1,500 people in that room. And peak anti-preservation also would do those numbers on a consistent basis. In fact, when you have the numbers to support that, and I will say that when they start piling in, there's a feeling as a moderator where you start thinking like, oh man, the room's popping, and then what you do is you optimize for the size of the room, and as a moderator, I think that when we were optimizing for size of the room, the quality wasn't as good. And I think over time you start recognizing that, like, what are we doing here? And then you start making some pivots. And I think that Electronic would probably agree with me on this, is that if you stay true to the topic and just have a format, whatever it might be, you might have popcorn style, you might go, PTR order, just even these terms, right, that we use. If you have a culture in your room that you stay true to, you'll find an audience that belongs there, and then you'll find the people that really don't fit that culture. And I would just say, that, to your point, the big room is not the measurement. The quality of the conversation is the measurement, and if that leads to a big room, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And the way that the rooms used to get big was twofold. One of them was if you were saying zany shit or if there was an argument, people were paying their friends. That was one of the things. The other thing was they used to have people that had a gazillion followers. So if back in Healthy Debates, if Eric Weinstein thought the conversation was interesting and he decided to join the stage, boom, instantly 800 people would join the room the moment he starts speaking because it was a signal to everybody. That didn't necessarily mean it was the best room. In fact, oftentimes the conversation was better before Eric Weinstein jumped into it. And so I would say moving forward, we as moderators, I would submit, don't try to optimize for size of the room. Try to optimize for the quality of.
Absolutely.
I really thank you. I appreciate it, man. To be honest with you, I feel like you shouldn't have more than 3 moderators in a room at a time. I think it creates a culture of bullying, and it really deters from the conversation. The more moderators you have in a room, I think when I think about anything that I've ever seen in real life where there was a moderator involved, like a presidential debate or some type of debate, you never see 8 or 9 moderators in anything in real life. It just doesn't make sense to me why you would have 9 people on stage that are moderate, and it takes away from the good conversation that could be had if you weren't playing personality games.
Well, Jamal, I think that's Jamal, you're making a good point. There was rooms on this app, and I don't need to call them out by name, but you guys would know, where their shtick was like, we'll mod everybody, and then by handing out these participation trophies as a social currency, the people would then, they would be more likely to ping people because it's like, oh, look at me, I'm in a big room and I've got the green bean. And I will say, I've kind of reverted back to like, because I just don't care about the size of the room anymore. I'll mod people because I like them. That's not the best way to do it. I will say that the highest quality rooms ever that I personally ran, and I'm not saying that I run the highest quality of rooms. The people that I admire would be people like Ned, if you guys remember him. I thought his rooms were amazing. I think Lou Fax's rooms are amazing. But I personally, when I would run my best rooms, is when I was a solo mod. That way, if somebody got moved down, they knew that I did it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is a key point of having but then there's another piece to it that makes a room good, and that is a moderator kind of pulling his hand and letting conversation flow. A lot of times when you have the one or two moderators and they're micromanaging the conversation, that fucks up conversation too. I think there is another good mod who I kind of found it very interesting how he monetized Clubhouse, and that is the home. I think that young guy understood the monetization of it, and I thought that was very interesting. The way that he kind of, I think he said he got it from Dr. I forget his name, but yeah. I think that
I got a different opinion on the monetization. Look, I'm a capitalist, and if you want to make your money that way, that's fine. But I would also argue that, trying to make money off the broke asses that are sitting around on Clubhouse is probably not the best strategy in life. I would say that utilize this for entertainment. If you do find a way to make money on it, that's cool. If that's your thing. For me, I think it's gay as fuck if somebody's got a Cash App in their bio. I think it's gay as fuck if they think that you need to tip them for being there. Look, if you don't want to participate in the conversation, like the idea, the audacity of people thinking that opening a room makes them a content creator. This app doesn't have content creators. We have facilitators of conversation.
But when you are able to leverage the thought of people not liking another person on stage, that I thought was genius. Well, whereas I don't like you, and because I don't like Anthony, I'll pay $10 just so he won't be on the stage with me. That was genius. And I think that part of it, I really haven't seen anybody really monetize it like that. And, I thought that was pretty interesting. So, that's all I have to say about it. But I don't mind where we're at right now with Clubhouse. I think that the conversations and the people's mindset needs to kind of expand a little bit. I'll land it right there.
I think landing the plane is the best part of Clubhouse.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in on the title.
Was the person that came up with the saying, "You're in the Matrix," which yes, it's sad. The most disingenuous. But people make some dumb claims. But that guy, if you have no value to add to a conversation, then you lie in your bio. And so
it's a case Shake came up with the goo, or did it also come up with the goo?
Yeah, the terms on this fucking app are hilarious. But we were talking about before you're in the Matrix in early days of Clubhouse. the saying was, and it came from the black rooms. They would say you're in the pipes. That was the saying that when you before you're in the Matrix. However, you're in the Matrix took off is pretty cool. But when you're in the Matrix became popular, Mark Days wasn't even on this app. Like that guy's just a complete liar. And if you want to talk about frauds, I don't know if you guys remember a guy by the name of Travis Believes. Travis Believes was one of the dumbest, fucking fakest people ever on this app. In his bio, it said, "Do you want 250,000 social media followers? Click here, blah, 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 blah." So I started clicking around. I went to all of his social media accounts. Combined, he didn't have even 50,000 followers. This guy's going to help you get 250,000. But he doesn't even have 50. That was the fakest fucking dude ever on this app.
That's funny. The other thing is, all of us here that ran rooms and put people on stage saved countless lives because we were able to identify a smoke detector that needed a battery replacement. So I feel really good that made me feel like I did something positive.
Can I just give 3 quick anecdotes about my experience with Clubhouse?
Please do.
One is that I think I am the most kicked person of all time in Clubhouse history. I've been kicked from more rooms than anybody else. 2, I've had more Clubhouse accounts, profiles than anybody else on this app. And 3, I think the anonymous feature on this app, I could have played a big role, or I did play a big role in the developers and the managers, because they probably have received hundreds, if not thousands, of complaints with regards to my activity on this app, listening and recording people making really asinine, stupid, low IQ comments, not based on intelligence or science, but based on horrific political positions and propaganda distribution. So, if
American Party, how many accounts do you think I was responsible for having removed from the app of yours?
Maybe like 3, 4, 5, something like that.
I remember you had a big one that you had changed to Roger Mayhem name, and I remember the day that got clipped. That had to be a little upsetting because that was the one that you had the most followers on.
At the moment, it's upsetting because it's frustrating, but it's also a great lesson in letting go because you realize and you question what you're doing on this app. Why am I listening so much and why am I speaking so much? And what can I do differently to optimize my life? So, but honestly, it is a fantastic app, and with Microsoft reaching a new $4 trillion market cap, Meta at such a high market cap now, highest in human history, like there's a good chance that this silly little app will get, gobbled up in an acquisition. But the people gobbling it probably have no idea just how rotten it is to the core.
Do you guys remember the $4 billion valuation that they had in mid-2021?
Yeah, they stupidly thought they were going to get more of Senator Chuck.
Well, they never got an offer. Getting a valuation doesn't mean you got an offer. So, well, I think people mistakenly said that because there was a valuation that somehow that equates to an offer. And by the way, that valuation was made by a worker at Andreessen Horowitz, which was one of the early investors in this. It very well could have been them just putting a valuation on this to draw attention to it, and with no real assessment of the value at all. Because if that would have came from an independent third-party source, I would have said like, wow, $4 billion, that's amazing. How do you calculate that? But because it came from Andreessen Horowitz, who led the financial investing of this app, I think you do have to kind of take that with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, that makes sense.
says the data on that eval is based on Clubhouse with celebrities on Clubhouse still. I think that would have led, if they would have looked at the celebrity experience on here, that would have led to a very low valuation. Because when the celebrities were on here, they didn't fare very well. I mean, go ask Kevin Hart how he feels about Clubhouse.
Kevin Hart got ready to build a Clubhouse. Are you kidding? That is hilarious. That's like the funniest thing I've heard all day.
When a comedian gets packed up by normies that are just in a room shooting the shit, that's when you realize the power of Clubhouse. These rooms right here, it democratizes, your ability to join a conversation. Comedians, when they're on a stage and the light is on them and they have the microphone, they're really good at handling hecklers. But when they don't have the microphone exclusively and they don't have the light shined on them exclusively, all of a sudden they become very human. And it's amazing that the people in a room, of average or below average intelligence, rip that guy to shreds, and he's never come back.
I have some Amber Rose recordings that did pretty well from this app. And if you listen to what Amber Rose says, not only is it insanely stupid, but it's racist and it's funny. But the Amber Rose recordings that I have and the shit that she would say was like cringe and incredibly stupid, but still fun nonetheless. And then sure enough, you see her in the Trump election campaign with her big forehead tattoo, and Amber Rose is endorsing Trump. It's a small world.
Do you guys remember Taylor Lorenz? Anybody remember when Taylor was on this app? No. Okay, so Taylor Lorenz wrote, and I'll pin the article. It was in the New York Times. That this tiny app, is dangerous because it has unfettered conversations. That led to the creation of one of the better houses that this app's ever had, called Unfettered. And imagine complaining and writing an article that it's dangerous to allow people to have an unfettered conversation. Think about what that implies. It's just amazing. I'll post the article so you guys can check it out.
Yeah, please do. Well, I was called matchmaker amongst others that I know because of, we would do days and days and days of just advocacy for fighting exemptions. That was to provide them with the verbiage, everything they needed. Affidavits to require their employers to sign. Their HR directors on notice, things like that. Yeah, that scared me.
And Michael, one point, I don't know if you got a chance. I texted you. I don't know if you got a chance to bring up the point. People talk about the U.S. being racist. I think the difference between the U.S., because I'm one of the people like Andy, I've had the ability to travel all over the world. I think the difference between the U.S. and other countries is, do we have issues? I think everybody's got issues. When you've got as many people in countries, you're going to have issues that you've got. I think the main thing is that our ability to have open speech is something that we just don't understand that in other countries is not always there. Having traveled to other countries, including ones that are very locked down, people want to talk. And you'll find that the majority of the people outside of the controlling entities in that country want the same thing we want. Everybody wants the same thing. I mean, they want to just be able to live their life, have their children grow up healthy and happy, and have a path forward for success. It's amazing when you see that. But when you come to the U.S. and you find, there's this discord. Well, the discords are because we can talk openly. And you look at some of the discord nowadays, it can be very minor stuff that creates the discord. Where I think you need long term. I think we're in such a great position that we're now arguing over smaller things and not should people be allowed to be in shackles, right? I mean, we're beyond, I think, some of those now. Some of that still occur, especially when we're talking about things that with
kid networks and things that we've gone after. Totally understand that. But we're now open enough that I think enough people are trying to resolve those problems that I don't think you're going to see as much of the 50-50 divide. I think the divides are a lot less minor. I don't know if I ramble too much, if that makes sense.
No, I think we're more divided than ever because of social media and government feeds to that divisiveness. But what you said is so important. There's no First Amendment in Canada. I mean, podcasters and people broadcasting have been taken down by misgendering someone. And we forget what we have.
Oh, David, people get
Hold on, real quick, Rob, real quick. The term misgendering somebody, like calling them by the gender in which they were born, is now a crime, and then we call that misgendering. Rob, go ahead.
I was just going to say, look at the people in the UK. They put something up that the UK, the social media police don't like. They'll come and arrest you now. And it could be something as simple as, I don't agree with the vaccines. I think the vaccines are dangerous. Boom, they can come and take you and put you in jail.
Well, doctors were silenced, during COVID too. The ones that didn't agree.
Well, if you bring up COVID-19 vaccine as a conspiracy theory or anything controversial or critical of it, you are labeled a conspiracy theorist immediately by everybody on this app still. So to me, that is extremely frustrating.
You couldn't say that on Facebook.
So if I'm a YouTube publisher and I had to undergo a medical misinformation policy training. Not only do they inform you about the COVID-19 vaccines, but they press you on Plan B. You're not allowed to talk about mifepristone. Anyways, my point is the merger between big tech and platforms and big pharma, big medicine, big insurance. It's there. You can't be critical of medical information, but the fact is that Fauci, Bill Gates, and a dozen other people, I mean, they are really complicit, in my opinion, in pushing out bad science, fake news, misinformation, and has created disastrous health outcomes for millions and millions of people.
What pisses me off when we start to go back and look at the pandemic, what really truly pisses me off to the extent, and I'm guilty of it, so everybody in this room, everybody in the United States is guilty of it, and pretty much around the globe, if you're going to cite your moral, stance there. The fact that we allowed the United States government to infringe on your religious freedoms. Many of you belong to a faith. Many of you are very religious. You go into rooms and say people like me are going to hell, and you'll say even some of the idiot last night we need a court.
Brad, that might be true, but respectfully.
Yeah, probably. I'll bring marshmallows. We'll have s'mores and bourbon. But the whole idea that we allowed this infringement, and then we watched it on CNN. We watched a demographic get targeted by police by a New York City mayor, our biggest and most prominent and powerful city in our entire country. We watched them target Jewish religious event, and we sat back. We watched ministers get arrested, fined, shut down. We watched small businesses, our friends who had stores up running. We watched them in gyms. We watched them get shut down and lose their incomes and still haven't recovered. We watched people lose their homes because they were told they weren't essential, they couldn't work, and they couldn't be a product of society, which is also a whole separate argument. And then furthermore, we interred elderly people who were in need of care, and we threw infected people into the rooms with them, and we gave a bailout to these care facilities. And we never held governors who granted this. We never held the mismanagement, and we've never once, from Fauci on down, took any of these policies and said, hold the fuck on. And we've never put anyone in there. Gretchen Whitmer, she didn't go and face any kind of prosecution. She didn't receive anything. Several thousand died under her care, under her watch, and she didn't advocate for that. And Trump is guilty of this. He had a DOJ. He could have went and said, hey, you can't imprison elderly people for being sick. You can't deny them their families.
to go ahead that your freedom of speech, your freedoms that everybody expresses, your human rights, that they could go ahead and just remove that, and they would face no consequences. And then you have people like the progressive tards that want to empower and embolden more government, and then you have the fucking Christian wannabe Trump supporter nationalists that want more federal power. And nobody's learned their lesson from this pandemic. And that's what kills me the most about this. Aside from the pharmaceutical thing, that's a whole separate topic. But we still haven't held our government accountable for the actions they took.
Right. In my state, you had no way of not taking the vaccine if you were a government employee, not through religious reasons, not for any reason. They fired so many competent people. And even if they were willing to take a test every week to prove they were healthy, there was no way that they could make the government happy. And one woman who was an excellent employee, who trained others, who worked 60, 70 hours a week on a 911 call board, finally, I mean, she was a single mother. She lost her job because she wouldn't take the vaccine. She had to move out of state. And she won a major lawsuit because of that here, and there's more coming.
So it's like a prime case in point. We lost, one person was killed on the day of Jan 6 on the quote, the revolution, the domestic terrorist that people want to highlight. Her name was Ashley Babbitt. She was a veteran. She served this country honorably. She had a pool business. She was struggling, but she was succeeding prior to the pandemic. Then COVID shut down her ability to have her personal business. She lost money. She was struggling financially. She was having to be dependent on family members, and they were trying to bridge the gap. She didn't have everything afforded. VA services were cut for her. So this meant she couldn't go to appointments at regular because, fuck, if you had any other condition outside of COVID, don't call your fucking doctor because he wasn't going to answer because there was enough money coming from the federal government to offset all that shit, and they shut down all the care there. And then she goes and gets shot at the Capitol building, and people to this day will still vilify her and say that she deserved what she got when she went there to protest, mainly because she wanted Trump to end the pandemic. She thought Trump would be the best chance because Biden and his campaign said, we're going to continue these measures until we've eradicated the pandemic, until we've destroyed this disease. And she financially couldn't take it. And she became a strong supporter of Trump, whether right or wrong or whether you believe in it. But she was the one that was killed. It wasn't the officers. Not a single fucking officer died that day as a result of that. Some did receive injuries, not discounting that. But at the end of the day, only one person was killed, and her name was Ashley Babbitt. And to this day, that woman still is not afforded any kind of remembrance. She is still vilified, and people just dusted her off, even though she was the one that died. I'm not saying she's a hero, but at least she deserved to be recognized that she was a direct result of what this government's policies were at that time. And what we failed to recognize is that we as a nation killed her. We allowed that to happen to one of our Americans to the point where she felt she had no choice but to go protest at that place. And to be further frank, she wasn't even the one trying to actually do any harm to the officers. She was actually there trying to help. She was trying to block things. That's what many of the people around her stated. And we never even held the Capitol Police who fired the shot, the only shot fired that day. The only guy to discharge his weapon. Nothing happened. He was held as a hero. He was extolled. He was given fucking money. And we still to this day will not acknowledge that. And we face accountability as Americans. We let our kids down because we allowed the government to be able to seize that power. And if you think they won't in the future, they will again.
I emphasize again, it is free to join my community. The stocks I share are also free. The techniques and strategies.
We were free that day.
I had a question. Basically, like, I don't feel like telling my story again because I did so many times in the past. Probably because then I had them lethal list. Is that a word? Most lethal all figured out. I didn't report because I found out that as soon as you do that in the Bay Area, the government can go in and they go into your medical records. Not that I don't care, I don't want that. And then there's plenty of other people doing it. And all mine were legit. It happened one day, months and months out, because the more fit you were, the longer it took to set in. And then they figured this out with like sisters and twins and stuff, and then the less like in shape they would get sick or maybe die faster. And one day I woke up not looked like there was another person growing on me, and I didn't have a head because you couldn't lift it. And I went to my PCP, and
What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm trying to say, ask American if that is still in the chat that he put. The coronavirus aid relief economics, is that still going for people that had legitimate illnesses from the poison put in them? That's what I'm talking. Did it for a job.
I don't know what the fuck's happening here. Kima, what happened?
I just don't know the words.
Oh my god.
Ooga. That's all I heard.
Alright, we're gonna do an interesting thought experiment here. I am gonna do something I would never normally do. Let's see, we're gonna mod Alyssa because she sounds completely sane. And we'll go ahead and do something I don't think I've ever done. We're gonna go ahead and mod American Party. Alright, let's see where that goes.
In the
I've got to say hello to Mr. Roger, and also say hello to Mr. Brad. Brad, I've never shared the things that I've heard people talk about you. I respect you. Thank you for your service, and also thank you for acknowledging Ashley about it. I really think that, like you said, we as Americans sometimes do not realize how we redress our government is extremely important. I call it a redress. We don't know what it looks like because most of us never experienced it. And J6 was us redressing the government. And unfortunately, because we have commies in the government, domestic terrorists in government, they have taken over and done a very good job of brainwashing our children and the American people for the last 40 years. So that's one of the reasons why they got away with what they got away with. You got people who are complicit. They don't know what self-government is, but they sure do know what government is. And everything government touched, Brad, and you know this, they have ruined it. Roger said this the other day. If you think the government's there for you, think again. The government's our problem, guys. The bigger the government...
You know your famous quote, government doesn't solve problems, it subsidizes them.
Exactly, Roger. And remember this, everyone. The bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. The bigger the citizen, the smaller the government. Take back your own personal self-government and stop allowing people within your world who do not live in your home to control your life. Thanks, Brad, again for saluting the only person that actually died on behalf of the American people, Ashley Babbitt.
Yeah, let's not forget Michael Bird, the murderer who decided to blow her fucking head off as she was trying to, it's total murder. I don't know if anybody here has seen the video, but, police seem to get immunity and there's no accountability, especially this guy. I posted the link to his interview, where he described how terrified he was. And if anybody saw the video, you'll know that this guy is an abominable human being.
individual. If I met you guys in person, I would respect you guys just for being whatever principles you guys stand on, you stand on them. And I think that a lot of people, unfortunately, don't do that today. They don't stand for anything. They have zero principles. What's on the inside of us as Americans? Like I tell, especially, like I said, I lost my black card, guys. But Brad said the other day, I tell foundational black Americans, quote unquote, that America already has a foundation. We should adhere to our three documents: the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. Limited government. No one owes anybody anything. We are not a perfect union. We're trying to become a more perfect union.
I don't know if you heard last night, but we got an interesting discussion from Bima, who is an anarchist, but she failed to really describe what her new government and new simulation or situation would look like. So when you say we're a site and we are the host, I mean, we want to diminish the size of this parasitic infection, which is sucking we the people dry. So Edward, if you were, the president or the king of America, what would you do for we the people?
First, I would tell the we the people that they're responsible for the outcome of their own lives. And obviously, if we go back to community, I would let them know that whatever they need in their local community, what they need locally, they have the ability to elect their local officials that represent them, and they can hold them accountable. Accountability is important, guys, and I don't know what's happened in the United States. We hold zero people accountable. Here in California, they let you, well, thank God, we passed recently Bill 36, where you can no longer just walk in the store and take up to $995 and they call it a misdemeanor. They don't realize these people who own these supermarkets and these stores actually are business owners. They're trying to take care of their own family. And any form of shrinkage hurts them. But we got smash and grab and young people out here because it's just no boundaries. So it's pretty sad. So as king of my own life, as king of my own world, I would tell people be responsible for your own behavior. And if someone in America wants to reach out and help you when you make a morally bad decision or you fall or you lose your job, let's do that locally. Let's help each other locally. And let's get the government out of our pocket. That's my thought there, America.
And also, you have more power as an individual than you actually think. I mean, it takes one clot to cause a heart attack, just one little anomaly. It takes time and it takes a lot of effort. It's like having a second job, but it can be done.
American, do you have a reference where we can go back and listen to Bima's defense of anarchy? Is that living somewhere on the interwebs? Maybe YouTube?
Yeah, I've live streamed that all. So it's on my YouTube's.
Okay, I'm gonna go find that. And edit it down to her lecture on anarchy. It's amazing.
See, the problem. I was going to say the problem with people trying to describe a new government or a new arrangement or situation, it's just somebody using their imagination and making fantastical ideas. It's just not based in reality. So to me, enlightenment or being in the now and being in, I guess, the objective world versus the subjective world or the material world is the real world. And unfortunately, because our brains are so powerful, when we have communication and conversation, people waste a lot of time on using their brain in a way which is not really making an impact whatsoever. So it's a little bit like what our government does. The IRS, has 800 plus offices around this country. These are shakedown offices for the American people. These are not innovation centers or incubators or entrepreneurial education facilities. These are shakedown offices. These are parasitic facilities that shake down 18-year-old female Uber drivers. They have no money. These are shakedown facilities. So what I'm trying to say is that we, the American people, have to wake up and recognize a parasite when you can properly identify it. And no, it doesn't do any good for us. We have to reject it and, diagnose it and treat it. And the best way to do that is really personal responsibility, but being social and being political. And this app, with regards to COVID-19, was just that. This was a response room, or this was a platform to the mass vaccination and destruction of our genetic material and threatening us with loss of life. I worked at the Treasury Department. I was repeatedly warned, if you don't get vaxxed, your position and your livelihood will be terminated. I would love to see those people held accountable for threatening me with loss of livelihood. But I resisted, and I wrote a religious exemption letter, and eventually, Trump was able to push it out, but not till much later. So the medical tyranny that we have lived in is a censorship tyranny. It is a platform, deplatforming tyranny. You, as an American, your rights to freedom of speech were absolutely and completely restricted. The censorship of your thoughts and your voice, that means you can't even have the thought if you can't have the voice. So it is slavery. It's not liberty. It's not freedom we've been living under. And I thank God Donald Trump won.
Keep going. I was gonna say it's gonna be more and more censored, where they can find you on your phone. They can find you through just any sort of EMF device anywhere that's on you. And I could write them down, find out half of them, and they're the largest corporations that are already working under this tyranny. This company, I won't say, CBS, Target, Apple, NBC, Shell, and McDonald's, and just say, I know that they aren't going to be happy. They won't be happy if they find people that are against their plan. But they don't go to say what they'll do to them.
Private businesses can't do much other than inoculated goods. Or you use their marketing to say bad shit about you. The thing people will end up needing to do is classically American. They will need to sue for their rights. And the best way to probably do that would be to recruit somebody who could pay to file the lawsuit. Technically, it's called lawsuit trapping. But that's how you get the questions answered. You put them before the court, and the court either goes, yeah, you're right about that, or no, you're totally bullshit about that.
Marshall, the only politicians have told me the only people they're afraid of is lawyers. You're right.
I've had politicians tell me they were afraid of other stuff, but more like, I feel your point.
I don't think you do. I don't want to make anyone think I'm more weird than I already are.
Trust me, you're among friends. I am weird too.
Let me have a little fun here. It's gonna get worse, guys. Especially they're hyping up this celestial body that's coming into our universe. It's gonna shatter Mars in November. That's when it's gonna get interesting.
How does a solar body shooting by Mars affect us?
So they all mainstream stuff I don't follow is already hyped up. This weird thing that is moving is not
Does it have a?
Many of those people don't have like a public information request for NASA star charts, which they're allowed to get.
Well, hold on. Right now, what they're saying, from what I'm reading, is that here's this thing that's heading this way, that's normal, but then there's this thing following it that they can't put their finger on, and so how they're going to weaponize this, I don't know, but the closer it gets, the better view we'll get at it, and the harder it's going to be for them to justify the scare tactics. That won't stop them from trying, though.
Is there a price tag on it? Is there a $37 trillion price tag on it? And is the trailing object the American people?
Better question is, there's a relative of theirs that live on it has already fallen and been stopped.
You know what would be wild is what if this was what the Hale Bopp people were waiting for, and they were just wrong about the timing?
There you go. Great point. It's just too convenient and too mainstream. What's going on? A Harvard professor says they're hostile. There's a good chance that they're hostile.
If you can't even see the damn thing, how do you know it's hostile?
They can see it.
Yeah. They can see the
How does being
So-
able to see an object make an object hostile?
I agree with you. The tail is not.
Astrophysicists.
The tail is forward facing, not. They're like a good comment.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the damn thing's hostile.
I know exactly. That's how you use it.
Listen, your local congressman, your local senator is more of a danger to your personal life and your future children's livelihood than an astral object in outer space. It's your senators and your congresspeople and the Federal Reserve that pose the biggest threat to your future liberty and your liberty right now.
America, your city council and your governor affects your life more on a daily basis than any of that shit.
Okay, well, in the chat, I put links to the HEROES Act and the CARES Act. That was over $5.5 trillion in debt created by senators and congresspeople. What was the ROI on that? Do you ever hear a forensic accounting or cost benefits analysis of former acts and all the trillions of dollars in spending? No, you just give it away. You give it to your lobbyist friends on K Street for Pfizer, Moderna, J&J, Google, every major corporation, Comcast, AT&T, Verizon, AstraZeneca, every single major corporation made out great. And you got a $1,200 stimulus check that they took back from you a couple of years later. So I again tell you, your local Congress and your local senator poses a bigger threat to your liberty and well-being now and in the future than an astral object, which is a clickbait fucking article, people. Wake the fuck up, my fellow Americans. It's a clickbait article.
Yeah, what we spend a year is far more important than an asteroid that has a weird tail. Going to the moon's probably more important than worrying about an asteroid with a weird tail. Oh, David's also right. Your mayor, city councilman, county commissioners, they affect your life much more on a daily basis than do the president, the Congress, or the Senate.
I don't know what to tell you, but your Congress and your senator creates the debt with the Federal Reserve, and your local governor or your local mayor, they are the parasites on the bigger parasites, the little fleas on the bigger fleas. So when you sit here and say, "Oh, it's just your local politics you need to be worried about," that's not true. It's your congressperson and your senator. That's what Marshall and you just said. Am I mistaken?
No, we didn't say this only. We were saying on a daily basis, the guy who changes the rules to run my business, the guy who makes the traffic laws, the guy who decides how my state runs and what new taxes they're going to enact.
affect my life on a daily basis more than anything else. On a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big non-controversial statement. Government closest to
Breaking up, Marshall.
the government you have the most effect on.
And when 25% of the people only vote in those elections, what do you expect? People need to take back their government, and they don't.
What I love is that I should be applauded for what I'm saying. Instead, I'm shut down every single time I bring up this issue or any other issue. Is it a me problem or is it a you problem?
We all live in a video and in the now, and our life is a constant virtual slide.
It's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying.
Oh, it's how I'm saying. You don't like how I say it, but you enjoy what I'm saying. Got it. Thank you very little.
It's not about enjoying. You do have
Got it. Thank you very little.
and it is very valuable. Who posted that? So, yay, but you are also speaking in a condescending tone that is annoying after about 30 seconds.
I'm not worried about the condescending tone or local government. My point and David's point is the government you can affect most is the ones that have the most effect on your life. Don't get me wrong, and Congress, in the passage of the big beautiful bill, they affected just about every state in the nation with an air traffic control system, for example, because they're going to update it. I'm not saying Congress can't affect you. I'm saying most people in their daily lives are far more likely to run into their local or state government rather than their federal government. Their federal government is more ethereal. It's more in the sky kind of thing. Your local government is very much in your face. So you are right in that you do need to contact your congressman and you do need to, try to get them back in on a leash. But you're wrong that the area you have the most impact. The not area you have the most impact. The area you have the most impact is your school board and local commissioner and local mayor races. That allows you in particular because the commission does things like set tax rates, right? The tax rate the city raises is going to directly affect your bottom line.
So Marshall, good to see you.
Good to see you, Mr. River. How are you?
This is the best day of my life. Thanks for asking. So could you give some practical, I'd like to know where every state, everyone currently is, and give some practical, you and David talked about the local area. What are some of the things that people can currently do right now in order to affect their local community? And how many of us are currently involved in our local government to any extent?
I'd say would be like one thing that you could do, and this is just the summer, so it'll be good to be sometimes take times off. Go to a county committee. You're gonna have school in the next month and a half or so in Texas. Go to your beginning school board meetings. So you're gonna be covering for the year. Get involved in organizations like the Rotary Club and Toastmasters that can plug you into civic service organizations. Those are things I would do. The Rotary Club, not explicitly political, plugs you into civil service. And civil service is very important for affecting your government. You don't just want to be an activist about it, you want to be somebody that your local government people see. Somebody once said to me, why should your government care about you if you don't care about them? That means what their jobs are. You don't have to
reset this live.
memorize the script, but those things are generally good ideas to get involved.
And also,
They have a child because their plan is to continue over age since 1902.
You have agencies in your local neighborhood. It sounds stupid, but you go to your community, form a community council in your neighborhood. Allow any citizen who's genuine to come in there, voice their complaint. Now you have access to your city councilman. As a group, you have more of a voice than you would just writing a letter from your house. And you can find out what funds are available that can be directed to your neighborhood to solve problems, build sidewalks, to correct whatever's going on in your neighborhood. And that way, on a small level, you're getting things done for people who need help locally. And then in election year in my city, when there's candidates and out for review, they allow public speaking. So you can go to those meetings and raise issues personally yourself and get them on record. And newspapers, social media outlets, they need to publish stuff. You can call them with information. You can give them information in a way that they can write an article or an editorial and actually get your information out there. And I did all those things and we made changes.
A couple of other things that should go without
Well,
saying.
hold on real quick. Hold on real quick. Before you go to your Chamber of Commerce or your Rotary Club or a school board meeting, city council meeting, you should understand one thing. There's already a culture and a consensus amongst the people that go there regularly. If you show up on day one without a plan and you're just going to show up and be the contrarian, you're not going to win any whatever. What I would argue, the best thing to do is to go ease in, meet the people. Don't tell them much about you in the beginning. Try to learn about them. And then go find your like-minded people that are not attending these, and you bring them with you. And then once you have, even if you have 3 people, you have 3 people that show up at these things. Now they can't bully you as easily because you have people that can co-sign for your shit. So when you start talking about things, if somebody says something, they present something that you just know is absolute horseshit, you can say, and don't just tell them, hey, that sounds like bullshit. What you can do is just go, yeah, I don't know if that's exactly true. Can you continue? And you let them continue. And then what you and your crew do is you look at each other confused, like, what is this person talking about? And then you slowly start winning over the crowd. And you figure out which people you'll never win over, and you find out the people that are just there to make friends, and those people you can win over just by being likable. If you go there and you take 2 personable friends with you, and you guys are the ones that are laughing and having a good time and talking about interesting shit, the people that don't really have strong opinions are going to gravitate to you. And then what you're talking about, you're going to be a bigger influence on them. If you show up alone, you're going to get chewed up, and I don't care who you are.
And you do need to do your homework.
Guys, what Roger just said, this is what we do in California, what I've done, and my wife and I continue to do. We have California Strong Patriots. We are part of the voter ID program here in California. We're also part of Project Accountability. We're part of 1826. It's called, right now in California, there's a bunch of people that get ready to turn 18. But the first time they get the right to vote is in 2026. We want them to vote red right now because we want to split California from blue to red. So these are the kind of things that we need to do. So everyone can get involved, but like Roger said, talk to someone locally who is, and listen to what he said, guys. Make sure you have a game plan, because you have some people who have been on these boards for years. They love their power, they love their position, but more importantly, you can go there, and a lot of them are not computer literate. They don't know how to read all of the analysis of the voting things in their community, and you can come in and just help them. And that's what my wife and I have done. We help them with letters, make sure that the voting rolls are clean and everything else. Just whatever you can do to help them. Win friends, influence people to help you solve a lot of things in your local community. And that person, when they end up going to the state house, they'll bring what happens locally to the state house, and hopefully, when they get to DC, they're going to have to locally to the Congress or to the Senate. So something that we're trying to change here.
I couldn't agree more. I think both you and Roger have hit nails on the head. I just want to repeat something you shouldn't say. Don't ever get up in front of a group of people, school board, city council, And I pay your salary. Number one, it just comes off as kind of bratty. Number two, it doesn't help win anybody over. And number three, you're not the first person who has ever said that to them. And saying that makes it less likely that you'll win friends and influence people.
Absolutely, Marshall. If you bring solutions, if you're going to criticize, you need to bring solutions. But I was talking to the mayor at one of those meetings, and he had gaslit the two people in front of me in line. And I looked at him, and I said, you know, you've been planning this with 4,000 hours of work and 20 of your people working on it, and you're telling us it's not going to happen. You know, don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. And the guy pivoted. I never saw a politician pivot. So I said, I want to come to your community. I want to walk the streets with you. And he did it. And we had a community meeting. And we actually, 400 of us told him exactly where he was wrong. And he thought he could just win over the community, but we were organized.
Well,
but it's like having a second job. I'm single. I could do this after work. I could call these people. You know, I could imagine I have family and children. You know, who has time for that? And that's part of the problem.
Well, David, Marshall, let me ask you a question. Do you think spending $10 billion a day is sustainable? You know, if we're taxing $7 billion worth a day and we're borrowing $3 billion a day, I mean, do you think we could get by on spending, let's say, even $4 billion a day? What demands $7 trillion in annual spending? Why can't we get away with spending $4 trillion a year? Do we ever plan on paying back the debt, or are we just going to continually, slowly, and sometimes dramatically increase the debt? We do have members. We have Thomas Massey. We have Rand Paul. These are patriots. We have Chip Roy. We have many Republicans who are fiscal hawks and want to cut this borrowing and the spending.
Rand Paul is the reason we have CRs in the Congress. So this is going to sound inane and weird, but fuck. The Senate has a rule about how you get this. You go to the well of the Senate at first, and most things are done by unanimous consent in the Senate. And so you ask for unanimous consent for your bill. Well, if it has anything to do with list making of any kind, it doesn't matter whether it's like a list of cities for federal resources to be devoted to. It doesn't matter if it's like a list of names to get awards. Rand Paul says, I oppose. So you then, per Jefferson's rules, have to go down to the well of the Senate, and you have to read the bill. And so the author of the bill reads the bill. It's then asked of the Senate to give unanimous consent. Rand Paul stands up again. No. Which means that they either figure out how to have a filibuster, or the bill, whatever it is dead on arrival. It's not going to get an up or down vote. It's not going to get a vote in committee. And what that does is force senators who are parochial, which you need to be parochial for your state. House members represent different districts in the state. Senators represent their states first. And what ends up happening...
Okay, I'm going to restart these lives.
There we go. What ends up happening is you have what's called airdropping in things. So you get these big omnibus bills.